Okay, so that's about demand pull inflation. Then next is cost push inflation. Cost push inflation. You write one line there. It is caused due to reduction in aggregate supply. Reduction in aggregate supply, which is usually caused due to increase in cost of production. Increase in cost of production. So cost push inflation is basically because of decrease in supply. Before it is because of increase in demand, here decrease in supply, opposite. And why supply is decreasing? When the cost of production is more, the supply is decreasing. Okay, so let's suppose this is a normal situation. You can draw it properly. Okay, so this is national income, this is price level, and this is aggregate demand, and this is aggregate supply. So here I am talking about a situation where the supply is decreasing, right? Supply is decreasing. The reason is actually cost of production. It can be anything. So let's take it as supply decreasing means supply curve shift leftward or rightward?
Left, sir.
Leftward shift will be there. So I'll shift this leftward. So you can see here there's a new point. Okay. And you can drop it down. So the price increased here. What is the problem here with this inflation?
National income also decreasing.
Here you can see the production is also decreasing. So this is actually the biggest challenge. Okay, so price is increasing, at the same time national income decreasing. Why? Supply is decreasing, the production is decreasing. Earlier, so which one is better? Demand pull or cost push? In fact, both are worst, but which one is comparatively not more dangerous? Demand pull is comparatively demand pull inflation shows that economy is growing at least. That shows that increased national income. But here this lead to recession. Cost push inflation may lead to recession. That is problematic. Okay. So you write one line there. The causes. Okay, you can write causes. You have already written what is this. So causes. Increase in cost of production or increase in prices of inputs. So when the price of inputs is increasing, cost of production will increase. Increase in cost of production or increase in price of inputs. Okay, so any increase, you see, any increase related to production will lead to what? Increase in cost, right? That lead to reduction in supply. So any increase related to the production, it can be related to land, means rent increased, okay, or labor, let's suppose wages increased, or capital, interest increased, or entrepreneurship, if the person is taking more profit. Any of this increase, it will affect what? Cost of production. It will affect what? Supply. That lead to what? Cost push inflation. So I could say any increase. Are you able to connect this? Any increase. So if what about repo increased? Repo increase. What will happen? Will it lead to cost push inflation?
Cost of getting money is...
yeah, here you can see the capital. Okay, you need capital for production. So the cost of money is actually the interest, and repo is increasing means interest will be increased because bank will directly pass on that burden to the consumers. So interest in the market will increase. So ultimately there is an increase in cost of production that lead to decrease in supply, and that lead to cost push inflation. But in which situation you increase repo? Is it to control inflation you increase repo or what? You go back and you see where we have discussed repo increase. In which situation the Reserve Bank will increase repo? Which situation? To control inflation or to promote growth? Which situation?
Decrease money supply, contraction.
So basically to decrease inflation only, right? To decrease inflation only, RBI is increasing what? Repo. Repo will increase. But here what I'm saying, when you increase repo, the cost of production is increasing. Why? Because money is costing more, so cost of production is increasing. That lead to what? Cost push inflation, right? So demand pull inflation, to control that you increase repo rate, that lead to increase in cost of production, and that lead to cost push inflation. So can we say by increasing repo or policy rates, the government or RBI can effectively control inflation? There is always limitations for these tools. You understood? Next one, increase in indirect taxes. Increase in indirect taxes. So when we discuss about demand pull inflation, which tax we talked about? Direct or indirect? We talked about direct, right?
Yes, sir.
There we talked about decrease in direct taxes. Decrease in direct tax means your income will increase. But now increase in indirect tax, what will happen? Because indirect tax is imposed on what? Imposed on commodities. So increase in indirect tax means what will happen?
Increase in production, cost of production.
Increase in cost of production. So cost of production will increase. So supply will actually decrease. Because firms' profit will come down. So when the profit is less, they don't have enough incentive to produce. Okay, and also when the tax is high, people also won't buy, so that otherwise also there won't be demand. So automatically supply will come down, and that lead to cost push inflation. So this is also one of the reason. Increase in indirect taxes. Is that clear? So if it is increase in indirect tax, can I say decrease in subsidies? Both are almost same. Decrease in subsidies, same effect will come, right? Decrease in subsidies means what? Cost of production will increase. So next is reduction in output or production. That is directly connected. Reduction in output or production. So reduction in output or production. It can be due to anything. Now if you see options, you need to pick it based on the common sense. Can we say natural factors here? Can we say natural factors will lead to inflation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it can be natural factors like rain, or flood, or earthquake, or anything. Supply will come down, so price will increase. Corona time, prices of items are increasing, right? So any natural factors can affect the price. Okay. So can we say change in government policy? Changes in government policy. Maybe this may lead to labor disputes, strikes, etc. Can we say all those will affect the output and production?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is also possible. And what about reduction in supply of raw materials? That will also reduction in supply of raw materials. So all these will affect production, and all these will cause cost push inflation. Okay. Next point you write hoarding and speculation. Hoarding and speculation. So because of the supply will come down, so that is also directly connected. Next you write defective supply chain. Defective supply chain. Next point you write increase in prices of imported commodities. Increase in prices of imported commodities. Increase in prices of imported commodities like petrol, diesel, etc. Crude oil price increasing, that will directly affect the prices of items, right, in India. Okay. Now, what about depreciation of rupee? Yeah, tell me.
Sir, increase.
What about this one? Depreciation of rupee. Can you tell me? We have discussed depreciation of rupee in case of demand pull inflation also. Here also I am discussing how it lead to cost push inflation.
So we want to pay more to import, sir.
Yeah, when depreciation of rupee is happening, it is connected to this only. Imported commodity, because most of the, like all these crude oil and everything, earlier let's suppose you are paying 60, if it is $1.60, and now you are paying 70 for $1. So this lead to increase in cost of production. So depreciation of rupee will result in increase in cost of production. That will reduce the supply and that lead to cost push inflation. So depreciation of rupee is actually a reason in both cases, there and here. Okay. What about increase in export? This we have already discussed.
Supply.
Yeah, there also we have discussed. There we have discussed in an entirely different context. Increase in export, what we said over there in demand pull inflation, this lead to forex, and that lead to money supply, that create demand, and that will lead to inflation. But here, when export is increasing, what will happen? Domestic supply will decrease, right? You keep on exporting everything. All the good items, everything is actually exported. So domestic supply is decreasing, so that lead to increase in price. Clear, no?
Sir, sorry, sir, there were some connection issues. Can you just come back on this, sir, please? Okay, sir. Yeah. Oh.
Just come back, I'll see that. Okay. So increase in export. Next is actually decrease in imports. Decrease in imports. So decrease in imports means what will happen? Again, how can you connect it with supply? Earlier we have discussed the same points. All these three we have discussed in case of demand pull also, and this we are discussing in supply side also, but in an entirely different context. Decrease in import means reduction in supply, right? If you are importing, it is good. If you are importing onion, there won't be any shortage of onion. But now you are not importing, there will be a shortage. That means there is a reduction in supply. So that lead to cost push inflation. Is that clear? Demand pull inflation was connected to money supply when we discussed about all these three. We have discussed in terms of money supply. Here we are discussing in terms of shortage of domestic supply. Or sometimes you see this X minus M. X minus M means actually X is export, M is import. Okay. So if you see increase in net exports, let's say this is net export. What about this? Increase in net export. Can this be a reason? If something is given, option is given like this, increase in net export. Can this be an inflationary?
Yes, sir.
See, net export means export minus import. So increase in net export, it will happen when export is increasing and import is decreasing. So these two are anyway inflationary. So increase in net export is inflationary when it comes to demand pull inflation as well as cost push inflation. So this word, if you see increase in net export, then you don't want to confuse with these things. You can directly mark this is inflationary both from demand side as well as from supply side. From supply side, increase in net export. So more goods are going out. So there is a shortage here. Similarly, demand side, if you see increase in net export, forex is net, that means we are getting, that leads to increase in money supply, that lead to demand pull inflation. Is that clear? So export increase is inflationary, import decrease is inflationary. Okay, X minus M increase, this is also inflationary. All these are inflationary both from demand pull side as well as supply side also. And depreciation of rupee also coming in both. These are common. Tell me. So if this question is asked, what you will write in case of what to do, which among the following measures to take to control inflation? Repo increase. What you will check? Will you take this? You have to take this because here you can see a direct impact. So if you stuck between any such option, definitely you can see if repo increase, you can control money supply. So money supply will decrease, purchasing power will decrease, aggregate demand will decrease, and you can control inflation. So this is the reason why RBI is taking this measure, and this is direct. The other one which I have told you is money supply is decreasing, so cost of money is more because interest is more, so investment will come down, and because of that cost of production is more, so that lead to inflation. This is indirect effect. This is indirect effect. So if there is a question in general is asked, you have to go for this direct effect. You got it? So what I'm saying is repo increase. Obviously RBI can control demand pull inflation like this. but RBI cannot do anything with cost push inflation. But this is direct relation. So in case if the question is asked on what measure you can take, you have to go for repo increase because there is a direct relation. This one is indirect one.